fuck yourself!
Welcome back to another episode of Rewind, a Closer Look. Today we're heading into 1986 with Florida Straits, a movie that somehow combines a prison escape, a treasure hunt, a love story, and a boat trip to Cuba into one long, confusing adventure where almost nothing actually happens. This is one of those movies that feels like it should be exciting. You've got gold, danger, Cold War tension, but instead it just kind of wanders around for 2 hours. Plans don't make sense, motivation is questionable, and every time something does happen, it's either over instantly or solved by something getting stabbed in the neck. Is this a hidden gem, a forgotten oddball, or just pure 80s filler padded out to feature length? Let's find out. The movie opens with some nice aerial shots rolling over the credits, and right away we get a massive military cargo plane coming in for a landing at what looks like a US base. It touches down, doors open, and a whole group of maybe refugees start filing out, getting checked off lists, reuniting with families, you know, the usual we made it out moment. And I gotta say, this copy of the movie, rough. Like, wow. Some of these old VHS films were not meant to be watched on an 88-inch 4K TV. Anyway, in the middle of all this, we spot a guy wearing sunglasses indoors, and just in case you weren't sure, yes, this means he's shady. That's how movies work. He grabs an envelope and a bag, gets through customs, hops in a cab, and then proceeds to just kinda tour the city for a bit. No urgency, no tension, just sightseeing, padding that runtime early. Eventually he gets as bored as I am and opens the envelope and pulls out a book. He heads to a hotel, goes upstairs, aggressively rings the bell like he's been waiting his whole life for this moment. Gets a room and just sits there staring at the book. No dialogue, no explanation. And once he takes off the sunglasses, boom, it's Raul Julia, who in the Street Fighter movie has one of the best lines in cinematic history.
The day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
He sits in the corner for a while, clearly lost in memories, or maybe the writers just couldn't be bothered to give him an internal monologue. Hard to say. Then suddenly, he notices shadows under the door. All right, here we go. Tension. He pulls out a knife, slowly creeps towards the door, unlocks it, it swings open, and it's a cat wearing one of those stupid little neck cones. That's the payoff? Okay, sure. Why not? Later on in a kitchen, where the scene looks like it was filmed on one of those same things they make the French fries from, our sunglasses guy meets a cook, who immediately calls him Major Carlos, and hugs him. Turns out, he thought he was dead, and the Major's like, yeah, I kinda was, but now I'm back. The cook is stunned, pulls out a cigarette, and the Major casually lights it for him, throwing in a line about how the guy could never find his matches. So, okay, they go way back. We get it. They sit down, catch up, and we start getting some actual information. They're both from Cuba. The cook's been in the US long enough to build a life, start a family. But the Major, he's not here to settle down. He asks about a woman, just her, no name, no details, just her. And the cook tells him she's still in Cuba. And right away the Major's like, cool, let's go get her. And the cook is like, absolutely not, forget it. You should just start a new life here. Don't even think about going back. Their argument gets cut off by the boss walking in, but once he leaves, the Major asks one simple question. Do you know where she is? And the cook says, yeah. Down at the docks in a warehouse, we find a group of guys playing poker, and sitting at the table is none other than Fred Ward.
Okay, now look, let's not make any trouble for each other. All I want to do is to get out of here.
He's up against this young kid who clearly has no idea what he's doing, calling out hit me in a poker game, which is either the worst attempt at hustling someone or,
What, are you retarded?
Of course, Fred raises, and immediately the kid calls and bumps it up another $500. Yeah, this kid is hustling him. So Fred thinks it over and calls, and that's when we hear his name, Lucky. Oh no, this guy has zero chance. The kid raises again, and Lucky's already out of cash, so he starts asking around the room for a loan, even offering up his boat as collateral, which nobody is dumb enough to take. because who in their right mind loans gambling money to a guy named Lucky? He goes back to the table, checks his cards. Full house, 7s over 3s. Not exactly a bet your life kind of hand, but hey, my name's not Lucky. So naturally, he bets half his boat against everything the kid has. The kid calls, Lucky flips his hand, sees the kid's got 3 10s, and thinks he's done it. Maybe he really is lucky, but nope. The kid's holding 2 kings, and just like that, Lucky becomes unlucky. He storms out, which honestly, fair enough, after losing half your boat on that hand, and the very next shot is him outside, ripping down his own boat charter sign, so yeah, you're not going to need that anymore. Back inside, the Major appears from nowhere, and sits down to play the next game of cards. The next morning, the kid shows up with a suitcase to claim his half of the boat, finds Lucky passed out on the deck, and just dumps a random bucket of dock water on him, which is a bold move considering who knows what was in that thing. Lucky wakes up, stumbles to his feet, runs at the kid like he's about to kill him, and then just jumps off the dock, Forrest Gump style. Cut to the kid sitting on his half of the boat, while Lucky comes up from below deck, changing from his wet clothes. And the kid explains he lost all his money right after Lucky left, and even tried to bet the half boat, but nobody wanted it. So now he's got nowhere else to go, so he's staying. Lucky just hands him a mop, calls him his first mate, and says they've got a charter in 30 minutes, so welcome aboard. Out on the water, Lucky lets the kid take the wheel while he hangs out with the passenger, and at one point, another boat cruises by, loaded with bikini babes, which immediately causes the kid to completely abandon his post and just stare. Lucky runs back to grab the wheel, and then explains that that's the most expensive charter around. It's basically a floating escort service, and the bikini babes are part of the package. I have a package of my own for those bikini babes.
Right to jail, right away.
After the charter ends, Lucky is divvying up the day's earning at the bar. He gives the kid his cut and immediately tells him to get lost, but the kid's like, nope, I live on my half of the boat now. And Lucky's like, yeah, but I live there, alone. And the kid just goes, not anymore. Well, so that's settled. Lucky asks why he's not off at college getting cheerleaders pregnant, and the kid says he's finding himself, which, sure, nothing says self-discovery like squatting on a half-owned boat. But then the kid pitches a way to double their money. Cut to a pool hall where it turns out he's actually pretty good at pool. So they sit around waiting to hustle someone, and eventually a guy walks in who agrees to play way too fast, which is never a good sign. The kid starts the hustle and then immediately gets absolutely destroyed as the guy runs the table. The guy's goons casually walk in and start flipping out their knives, and just like that, the whole thing flips. Lucky and the kid hand over their money, and the guy walks out like it was never even close. Lucky's not impressed, and the kid just shrugs it off with a "you win some, you lose some," which at this point is starting to feel like he only wins when he's playing with someone even worse luck like Lucky. At another bar, Lucky's in the middle of an arm wrestling match, while in the background, the Major's just sitting there watching them through sunglasses in a dimly lit bar, which is impressive because I can barely see in there without sunglasses. Lucky gets 2 beers for winning the match and hands one to the kid because apparently teen living on your boat and underage drinking are just standard procedure here. This situation is starting to look questionable.
There's something you need to know. Please. I'm Chris Hansen.
As they sit there bonding, the door swings open and a guy in a white suit walks in, and Lucky instantly tells the kid to play dumb. The guy approaches and starts pitching Lucky on joining some kind of operation with his boat, and the kid immediately leans in like, tell me more. But the guy takes a hard left and basically asks Lucky,
You into boys, Captain?
yeah, I told you that situation didn't look good. The kid catches on, fires back with an insult, and Lucky shuts the whole thing down, and the guy leaves. Lucky then warns the kid to watch his mouth because that guy is dangerous. And through all this, the Major's just sitting there in the background, apparently watching everything. Later on the boat, Lucky's down in the engine when he catches the Major snooping around his boat. Sorry, his half a boat. And asks if he can help him. The Major immediately asks how much it costs to charter the boat. Lucky gives him a price, wakes up the kid, and the Major starts asking about the range. About 300 miles, give or take. And then he just hops on board and says, "Okay, let's go." Right now, no explanation. Lucky just laughs and goes, "Hey, it's your money." Until the kid pipes up and tells him that it's actually his money because that's the guy he lost all his money to in the poker game. So now you're wondering, is this some master plan? Did the Major hustle them on purpose so they'd be broke enough to take the job? Probably not, because Lucky agrees instantly without even asking where they're going. He tells the kid to grab some bait, and they start arguing. But the Major cuts in and says, "Don't worry, he brought his own." Okay, maybe something's finally going to happen. But the Major just fishes the whole time like everything's normal. Back at the dock, he's cutting open the fish he caught. Okay. Lucky offers him a weekly rate if he wants to do some more fishing. The Major just says he can't afford a week. He can't even afford today. Then casually tells them they've got two options. They can call the cops or meet him at the hotel at 8 p.m. Says they can keep the fish and then just walks off. So later that night, at what must be 8 p.m., they meet him. He pays them what he owed him from the fishing trip and then pitches them a real opportunity. Lucky immediately says no, the kid immediately says yes, and the Major drops a gold coin on the table and claims there's $2 million worth of it, which I'm calling it now. That's probably the only coin. But he says he'll split it with them if they help him get it. And when Lucky finally asks where, the answer is Cuba.
Cuba is life. Viva Cuba.
And Lucky doesn't even say no. He just bolts out of the room like his fight or flight finally kicked in. With the kid chasing him down the hallway, asking him what the problem is. They argue, and Lucky caves. They go back in, and the Major lays out his story.
Story time.
Back in 1961, the gold was part of the old government's treasury. The Major's plane got shot down, and he hid it before being captured. He spent 20 years in prison and got out last week, and now he's the only one who knows where it is. And somehow, after all that, he's absolutely sure it's still there. Only catch is, if they get caught, well, it's very bad.
Right to jail, right away.
Lucky's out immediately. The kid thinks it sounds like fun, so naturally they go back out in the hallway to argue again. And the kid proposes the worst possible way to decide. He'll cut him for it. If the kid wins, they go. If Lucky wins, he gets half of his boat back. And instead of showing us how that goes, the movie just cuts to them repainting the boat name, which somehow makes it even funnier that Lucky lost. They wrap that up, head out, and the Major says it'll be a quick in and out job. 3 days. Easy. Lucky is stressed out immediately and heads up on deck. The kid lays down to go to sleep, and the Major just sits there reading his book. The kid randomly starts dumping his life story on him until the Major shuts it down with a simple,
"Get some sleep."
The next morning, the Major and the kid wake up to the smell of gas fumes, and Lucky's already there, fixing a split fuel line, casually telling them it's handled, even though they've apparently been dumping fuel all night while everyone slept. So yeah, this trip's off to a fantastic start. Lucky checks the tank, and they've got about 10 gallons left, which the Major insists is just enough to get to Cuba. Convenient. Lucky absolutely does not want to hear that, and finally drops why people call him Lucky.
You know why they call me Lucky, huh? You want to know? Because I'm not.
The Major says he knows a place to refuel, so they keep going and eventually pull into a port in the rain. Major insists this is not the right spot. Lucky insists they stop because they're running on fumes. While the Major is like, "Dude, this is a naval base. It doesn't matter." Lucky pulls in anyway. They break the lock off a fuel pump, start running the hose, and of course, pump doesn't work. So the Major hops off to go on a little side quest, finds a fuse panel, flips the power on, and gets the fuel flowing. Except the panel's right in front of a window, so immediately someone spots him. Is something finally going to happen? The guy pulls a gun, marches the Major back to the boat, and while the Major is trying to talk his way out of it, he just suddenly pulls a knife and stabs the guy in the neck. Well, that was easy. They toss a blanket over the dead body and just keep going like this is normal now. Later on that night, a patrol boat rolls up and tells them to stop. Okay, Shirley.
And don't call me Shirley.
Something has to happen here, right? Lucky hands the kid a gun and says only to shoot if they shoot first. Since the Major is the only one who speaks Spanish, he handles the talking. The kid lays down next to the dead body, pretending to sleep, so it looks like the dead guy's also sleeping. Which raises the obvious question, why didn't they just dump that body earlier instead of bringing it along for the ride? Either way, the story somehow works and the patrol boat just leaves again with nothing happening. So now the Major decides it's time to dump the body overboard. Little late for that, but okay. And at this point, we're almost 40 minutes in and basically nothing has happened yet. The next day, they finally reach the inlet they've been looking for. We see some pigs on shore, and then one of them just randomly explodes because apparently the area was mined during the revolution, which I'm sure will be important later, or not. They hide the boat in some reeds, wait for a patrol boat to pass, then head upriver in a dinghy. And eventually, they go on foot through the foggy jungle, hacking their way through, while the kid complains about bugs non-stop.
Stop whining!
They stop for a break, sit around eating, and we finally learn Lucky used to be in the military. While the Major pulls out his book again, which we now find out is Don Quixote, and apparently the guards ripped it up in prison. The kid suggests maybe getting a new one, and I'm like, when? When would he have done that? He got out of a Cuban jail, flew to the States, got a hotel, hustled a poker game, and hired these two idiots. There was no time for a bookstore run. They keep moving and eventually reach a clearing with this half-built concrete structure that turns out to be an abandoned power plant from before the revolution, basically a corruption project that never got finished. But the Major says it's good enough to spend the night, which is funny because this was supposed to be a 3-day trip. By my count, we're already there. They start exploring, find signs someone's been there recently, like empty cans and a freshly slaughtered pig. So Lucky suggests maybe they should leave, but before they can, they get surrounded and disarmed. The leader comes over. The Major immediately claims they're just geologists passing through. The leader asks the kid to confirm, and the kid who doesn't speak Spanish just blurts out something in English, instantly blowing that cover. The leader calls them out, points out that geologists don't carry machine guns, which, fair. They get tied up, and while the leader starts smearing pig's blood on them and even start cutting the kid a bit, suddenly a gunshot rings out and a military captain shows up, tells everyone to stand down, and then walks over to the Major. And it turns out they know each other. And he tells the gang to untie them. Our group gets led up to a ledge overlooking the captain. They talk for a bit about basically nothing. The gang tosses their bag down and then just leave. Our trio heads down and sits with the captain, eating pork like this is a normal lunch break. The captain even offers the kid a cigar, but when he opens the box, there's a spider inside. Hilarious. Not really. But then he gets down to business and asks the Major why he's here, and the Major just says he's looking for Carmen.
Where in the world is
Carmen Sandiego?
The captain doesn't buy it, turns to the kid, who gives a smart-ass answer and immediately starts getting slapped for it. And while all this is happening, the Major is once again casually pulling out his little knife, and the second the captain turns his back, stab in the neck. That's the Major's go-to move. They lay the body on a cot, throw a newspaper over his face to make it look like he's sleeping.
Don't disturb my friend, he's dead tired.
They grab their gear and sneak out through the half-built power plant, which, I will give it to him, is actually a really cool location. Like, this would be perfect for some post-apocalyptic wasteland movie. Of course, the gang leader looks down, sees the sleeping captain, immediately knows something's off. He runs down, pulls the paper back, and just yells. Which, honestly, same. That's been my reaction to this entire movie. Out in the foggy jungle, Lucky finally asks the obvious question. Are we even getting gold? Or is this just about the Carmen woman? Meanwhile, back at the plant, the gang leader wakes everyone up and they grab their guns to go after them. In the jungle, the Major says they're about a day away. Another day? What happened to this 3-day plan?
Wait a minute!
Didn't we stop at the power plant to camp for the night? Was there even a night? At this point, who cares? Lucky and the Major start arguing, pull knives on each other, and the kid steps in and calms things down. And the Major promises just one more day, while Lucky basically says there better be gold, And man, I'm right there with them. Because at this point, I'm convinced there isn't any. They keep walking, pass a road lined with painted signs of dead revolutionaries, and it really starts to feel like this movie's trying to sneak in some Cuban sympathy propaganda with all this stuff. The mines, the corruption in building the power plant, now this. They stop near an orchard. The major tells him to wait. He goes down to a river, splashes around in the water a bit, then pulls out a spotless white suit and changes like he's about to attend a wedding. He strolls into a small town, looking like the least subtle man alive, starts asking around, and someone points him to a fairground where a group of women are rehearsing some kind of ceremony. Our group sits down on the overlook, pulls out some binoculars, and asks what's going on down there. Turns out they're practicing for a May Day ceremony. The major says he'll be back before nightfall, which, okay. We skipped nighttime yesterday, so who knows what that actually means. He heads down towards the fairgrounds. He doesn't even get far before a cop stops him. But like everything in this movie, it goes nowhere. The major just strolls over, sits down behind the woman, and just stares at her. Meanwhile, the kid's up on the hill watching through binoculars, watching the woman do nothing, watching the major do nothing, watching the cop do nothing. And that pretty much sums up the entire movie. Nothing happens. Every bit of tension either disappears on its own or gets solved the second the major pulls out a knife and stabs it in the neck. Lucky eventually says his skin is crawling, grabs a machete, tells the kid he's got some business to attend to, and just walks off into what can only be described as a jungle junkyard. He's wandering around, finds a well, and starts rinsing his head, because sure, why not? And then out of nowhere, the gang leader jumps him and takes a swing. He misses, of course, and for a split second, you're like, okay, here we go. Are we finally getting a fight? Is something actually going to happen? And then, are you kidding me? This guy just runs away. Not even a goddamn fight. He just runs around banging on junk, hiding, trying to be intimidating. And then with Lucky's back turned, he jumps up on a rusted truck, leaps off, and falls straight into the well. That's it. That's the fight. Are you kidding me? What the is this movie? Oh, I need a break. That's better. I was getting way too wound up. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the fairgrounds, the woman finally notices the major. He walks over. She says she thought he was dead. He's like, nope, and tells her he has a way for her to leave Cuba with him, only for a kid to run up calling her mom. And just like that, Carmen and her daughter just walk away. Yeah, well, that's over. And with about 30 minutes left in this movie, there better be some f***ing gold coming up. I swear, if they just turn around and go home after all this, I'm done.
Bye, have a great time.
As the major leaves the fairgrounds, the cop from earlier catches up to him and basically drops the bomb. Carmen is his wife now. So take the hint and leave, and he'll look the other way. So the major just walks away. Up on the overlook, the kid's asleep when Lucky comes back. They check the binoculars, and the major's gone. So naturally, they just grab their stuff and leave like, well, guess that's over. But after wandering around for a bit, they just happen to stumble across the major by the river, having a full-on pity party. Lucky tries to give him a pep talk, and the major just ignores him and walks off. The kid is like, we go get the gold now, right? And man, I sure hope so, because me, something has to happen. Hell, Buddy didn't even get the girl. Back at the junkyard, a lady drops a bucket down into the well, and of course, the gang leader climbs out. Our group makes it back to the power plant, where apparently the gold has just been sitting this whole time, and somehow the gang that lives there never found it.
Oh, come on!
The gang leader spots him, and he does not look happy. Inside the plant, the major leads him up some stairs, points down into this large concrete structure, and just says the gold's in there, if it's still there. And the duo looks over and starts celebrating, even though all I see is water. They drop ropes, climb down, find this huge partially submerged trunk, pry it open, and okay, I'll give it to the movie. There's actually gold. Like, a lot of gold. Way more than $2 million. And also, how did the Major even get this massive trunk down there in the first place? More importantly, how are they even getting it back up? Ugh, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter!
Major suddenly decides he doesn't even want it anymore, tells them it's all theirs if they can carry it out, and throws his bag down for them to fill too, and just stands there laughing while they load up. Okay. So you lost the girl and now you just opt out of the gold too? Whatever, man. If that Carmen chick comes back and that's his treasure, I swear. So now they're trudging through the jungle at night carrying bags of gold. Finally something of value is happening, only to come out onto a beach, and they find the gang members all dead, which means, yeah, the leader, he's back.
He's back.
He's back!
They argue about it, get back to the river, find their dinghy flipped over and busted, somehow fix it enough to row all the way back to their main boat, which is already questionable, but fine, we're moving on. They pull alongside, and I'm immediately thinking that gang leader's already on board. But nope, they just cut to them sailing off into the fog. Lucky eventually hears another boat, and suddenly a patrol vessel appears out of nowhere. The kid instantly opens fire for absolutely no reason. Maybe he was tired of nothing happening too. The patrol boat returns fire, punching holes in their boat, and since the Major can't stab a boat in the neck, Lucky drives the boat into the fog to hide. A second patrol boat shows up and starts firing too. But because nobody can see or anything, the first boat ends up launching a rocket and blowing up the second one instead. Absolute chaos. In the middle of all this, the Major manages to get shot and the remaining patrol boat just runs aground, and somehow our guys just escape. Once things calm down, our duo realizes the Major's been shot, but he tells them to forget about it and focus on getting out to sea. Great plan. Until the gang leader suddenly somehow appears on the breakwater and starts opening fire, blasting holes into the hull as water starts pouring in. Lucky turns the boat towards shore, and holy it's the same beach with the landmines. They actually set that up earlier. The gang leader runs across the breakwater, hits the beach, charges towards them, and Lucky jumps off the boat for a final showdown. He goads him into a machete fight, and the second the guy commits, boom, he steps on a mine and explodes.
Now that's funny!
They get back on the boat and limp away. Not long after that, the Major dies. So they dump him overboard while the kid tosses pages from his book into the ocean like we're supposed to feel something. Like a random guard you keep aboard for hours, but your friend? Nah, dump him right away. Meanwhile, the boat is still taking on water. They're trying to keep up with a hand pump, and the engine dies. And that's it. Lucky deploys an inflatable raft, and they abandon ship, along with all the gold. The next day, they're drifting under the blazing sun. They get rescued, off screen, mind you. The kid was passed out when they were rescued. He is completely defeated, saying they lost everything, until Lucky goes, not quite, and pulls out a bag of gold coins. So apparently he did keep some. They both celebrate, and the kid asks, where are they? Lucky opens the door, and it's the hooker boat. That's the ending. That's what all of this leads to, and thank God it's over, because this movie sucked. Not even in a fun soap at its good way. Just nothing happens for the majority of it. Yeah, they technically get the gold and, the Major dies, but it takes the most roundabout, padded out journey imaginable to get there. Every problem is either solved by running away or just stabbing someone in the neck. The Major's entire motivation makes no sense. Why leave the island at all if you just want to see Carmen? Why would the Major even expect her to still be waiting for him? She thought he died 20 years ago. There's no way that gold sat unhidden, untouched for 20 years. How did that gang leader magically get ahead of them without a boat? And who the hell was the guy in the bar trying to recruit them? But hey, at least you guys got the short, cleaned up version of this, because sitting through this full thing, whew, that's a whole different level of commitment. So yeah, Florida Straits, a movie where it feels like a lot should be happening, and somehow absolutely nothing does. Not even so bad it's good, just a long, strange trip to a pretty weak payoff. Unless you really came here for that hooker boat ending. But hey, if you've seen this one, let me know what you think down in the comments. Maybe I missed something, or maybe you suffered through it too. And if you're into deep dives on forgotten, weird, and questionable movies like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in the next episode.
Hold up. Hey.
I trust you and your friends have forgiven us our bad manners of this afternoon, Major. We weren't going to kill you, we were just trying to scare you a little.
This one isn't bluffing.
No. His enemies call him El Gato Negro, the black cat, because it is bad luck if he crosses your path.
What do his friends call him?